The Pieces Lie Where They Fell by Anon E. Mouse Jr. Edited and co-authored by Evil Humor. Read for you by My Name is R. Chapter 36 Vix Lee and Rex. Part 1 Vix Lee. Vix Lee and the rest of them took a moment to examine themselves, as for some reason they'd all become some sort of weird minotaurs. What happened to us? This was Vittle. The former kitty cat was now a bit taller than before. Her dark blue hair was cropped short in the back, and her skin was a mixture of purple and blue. She was wearing an open tan yellow jacket over a soft green top, and wearing some black pants with white worn shoes on her feet. I don't know, but I am not too fond of not having my wings. Looking to the right of her had to be Nighty, who was twisting around, trying to see his back. He had the same light gray-colored skin, the same scar over his eye, and the same wind-blown hair, but now he was wearing a dark, formal-looking jacket with a badge that had a silver sword over a black background on its right breast, over a white-collared shirt and black tie. He was also wearing polished black shoes and corduroy pants, and he was not happy, if the normal grumpy look on his face was anything to go by. Nor me, Wind grumbled as he patted his sides of his reddish-gold jacket. Not only are my wings gone, but my crossbow and my booze are missing too. He slammed his orangish-pink hands into his faded blue pants and kicked the ground with well-worn-looking yellow shoes. But you were abstaining from drinking, correct? Rexy asked, and somehow she knew that this was the perfect outfit for him. He had his normal vest, but it was over a high-neck blue shirt with loose sleeves and sharp dark gray pants, with white and black casual-looking shoes, though in somewhat better shape than Windy's slightly worn ones. Wind trailed off, his face heating up with embarrassment as he rubbed the back of his neck. Windbreaker, Paige hissed at him. She looked very much like a librarian would. She was wearing a dark green blazer over a white blouse with a blue-green shirt. Her skin was the same yellow as her pony self's fur, and she had light green hair all combed up, and her shoes were tiny things on her feet. You were doing so well. Hey, I've been on that stuff for so long, it's hard to get out of the habit all at once, Windbreaker protested. Paige crossed her arms and tapped one foot, giving him a look. I can understand that, but it's a habit you need to get out of. The withdrawal will be hard, but we're here to help you. Windbreaker smiled faintly. Yeah, thanks. As good as this is, guys, Vix Lee said as she took a weak step forwards. Why were her legs so weird now? She was wearing her normal skirt over some dark gray short pants, and had a white top on her chest, something that was a bit odd after going for so long without. Shouldn't we figure out where we are, or what's... She trailed off, and then did a double take, looking down to make sure her eyes weren't fooling her. But they weren't. Yes! Vixley whooped as she gazed at the lower half of her body. I have actual pants now! Then she caught the odd looks every tar else was giving her and blushed, brushing her bluish-black hair back and wincing at the lack of her horns. Sorry. Beyond the obvious, Rex said as he glanced around the clearing they were in, it seems that this mirror has transported us to somewhere very different than where we are used to. A school, if that name's anything to go by, Vix Lee said, pointing at the massive building behind them. See? Canterlot High School. Says it on the sign right over the doors. Well, that would explain all the kids around, Viddle said as she shuffled around with Vix Lee, now noticing all the kids with backpacks looking at them. I think we should get moving and out of the open. People are looking at us. You think they'd mind a group of strangers coming in to look around? Windbreaker asked. That depends, Paige replied. If this is a school, though. She looked thoughtful. I wonder where their library is. I'm sure we'll figure it out, Nightblade told her. In the meantime, Viddle is right. And I can't believe I just said that, he added with a groan. We need to get moving. Taking a step, he swayed. Or trying to move. It's hard enough having these long legs and no wings for support, Windbreaker grumbled as he walked stiffly. I can't believe how much my tail actually helped me keep my balance. It's not that hard, Paige said as she walked around with a smile on her face. Speak for yourself, Vixley said as she tried to walk on her legs. But they were just wrong now. She wasn't supposed to be able to see her kneecaps. And there was something she never would have imagined any tar ever thinking. You're used to changing into new shapes. Actually, Paige said with a blush on her face, my unicorn self is pretty much the most I know. I could add wings or pretend to be an earth pony, but other than that... Again, we should get moving and figure out how we are going to get my element back, Viddle said, causing Vix Lee to feel around her neck, and was relieved to discover the familiar metal of her element, with the others doing the same. Also figure out who that mare was, and we should probably try to keep as out of sight as possible. Bad enough all these kids are looking at us, she grumbled. I'm sure we don't look suspicious at all, just standing around like this. Come, let's go find a place we can claim as a base and observe the people here to find out who took my element, and make plans to get it back from here. Or, Vixley said, cutting off the former kitty cat, we can just go inside, talk to the people that run this place, and get help that way. That makes a terrifying amount of sense. Rex blinked in actual concern, although she could see the smirk on Rex's face. She wasn't that bad. Shall we head on, then, and see whom is the principal of this school? Yeah, Viddle finally said. All right, let's go. Wait! Paige suddenly shouted. I just thought of something. Turning around, she pressed a hand against the base of the statue where they were standing in front of, and sighed in relief as she saw one hand go through it. Whatever this is, I'm pretty sure it takes us back to Equestria. She looked at Viddle. Wait up for me, will you? I'll be back in just a moment. I just need to make sure. And with that, she ran through the statue, leaving the 5 blinking companions to stare after her. Why do I have the feeling there's something more going on here than we know? Windbreaker asked. Whatever it is, I'm certain Paige will inform us if we need to know, Rex said, and when she's ready to tell us. A minute later, Paige emerged, looking as she had the first time. Right, that's all settled. So, she clapped her hands together, let's go. As the 6 headed for the doors and began to climb the steps in front of the building, Vix Lee noticed Nightblade stumble a bit as he started up them, only for Paige to catch him. She blushed a bit before guiding his hand to the railing, and continued on. Night nodded in thanks, then furrowed his forehead as he kept going, watching the stairs carefully. Once inside, Vix Lee stopped, eyes widening as she looked at one of the display cases off to the side. Wow, she said as she studied her reflection. I am ripped here. Windbreaker snorted in amusement as he studied his own reflection. And I don't look too bad either, he commented. The face is a lot flatter than I'm used to, but from the looks of things, that's normal for this species. Whatever it is. He then frowned and ran a finger inside his mouth. And I've got teeth now. Weird. They are completely inefficient for eating anything tougher than meat, Rex complained, as he ran his tongue over his teeth. "Come on, admire yourselves later," Vix said impatiently as she flexed her fingers and looked longingly at her butt. "We need to get—" Just then a bell rang, and students began pouring into the halls from every doorway. "Moving," the former Owie's Odalist said with a groan, as they stepped to the side and students began to go to the next class. She tried to call some of them, but only got brushed off. She grumbled as she grabbed a blonde-haired girl with some cool-looking eyes who was noshing on a muffin. "Hey, can you point us to whoever's in charge?" Sure," she said in a soft voice, with just a hint of a North Manhattan accent, pointing off in a direction. "Principal Celestia and Vice Principal Luna's offices are down that way." She then promptly walked off to her class. 3 sets of eyes immediately widened. "Did she say," Paige managed, "Principal Celestia? And Vice Principal Luna?" Knight almost shouted, but was smart enough not to do that in a school. People might come out and think they were just kids playing hooky or something. Wynn's own eyes were wide. "Either we heard that wrong, or something is definitely odd about this place," he said faintly. "Or I believe it is this place," Rex said sharply. "While I do not believe that they were goddesses, your rulers were noted to be kind and just ponies. I cannot begin to imagine them choosing to spend 1,000 years in this place instead of returning back to Canterlot. Our Canterlot." "Hey!" a voice rang out, and Vixley turned to see another student looking at them. This one with blue hair and a black jacket. "Shouldn't you be headed for class?" The boy's eyes widened as he stared directly at Nighty. Yes?" Knight arched an eyebrow at him. "Can I help you?" "Yeah, listen, are you from Crystal Prep or something?" "Crystal what?" Knight looked confused. "I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're talking about." "It's another school, and for a moment there your outfit kinda looked like their uniforms." The boy grinned sheepishly. "Guess not, if you've never heard of them." "No, I can't say that I have," Knight said. "I'm Nightblade, by the way." "Flash Sentry." The boy stuck out his hand. "By the way, cool scar." "Oh, thank you." Knight shook his hand somewhat hesitantly. "Anyway, I gotta get to class. See ya around." Flash waved and then dashed off. "Nice guy," Vixley commented as she watched him go. "So, guess we'd better get going." Vidal nodded, then started walking in the direction the blonde girl had pointed. "This is it," Paige said several minutes later as she looked at the door that said Principal Celestia written on the glass screen. "How should we do this?" "I've got this," Vixley said confidently. "I believe I should do this, no offense, Vixley," Rex said. "Yeah, me too," Windbreaker added, with Nightblade and Vidal agreeing quickly, and Paige nodding her head. "Nah, trust me, guys." She grinned impishly as she opened the door to see a woman with pinkish-white skin and long, flowing hair, in a mix of light bluish-green and pink, dressed in a yellow business jacket with a sun-shaped pin on its collar, working away at a desk. She tilted her head up at them, walking into her office, but before she could get a word in, Vixley continued to speak. "Hello, I'm Vixley." She reached over to pull Knight over. "This here is Nightblade, and that's Paige Turner. The guy with the vest is Rex, and the one with the wind jacket is Windbreaker." She paused only to grab the former Owie's Odalist and drag her forwards. "And this is poor Vittel. While we were passing your wonderful school, some mean girl ran past her and stole a very near and dear family heirloom and dashed inside. We were really hoping that you can help us get it back before we have to continue on our journey." The woman gazed up at them. I see. And could you possibly describe this heirloom of yours? Well, it's this kind of horseshoe-shaped tiara, Vidal said. A little warped, and it had a broken gem on top. And it's really important that I get it back. I see. And the girl who stole it? Well, she was amber, and her hair was red and yellow, Vidal said as she glanced around the room, and she had a really nasty look on her face. Her own face paled, and she pointed, just like that one. Princess Celestia looked where she was pointing and raised an eyebrow. Is that the girl you say stole your heirloom? Yes, that's her exactly. Vidal looked at the framed pictures on the principal's wall, each showing a girl who was clearly a unicorn mare they'd seen before, but in a form resembling their own current ones, wearing a fancy-looking dress and crown, though she wasn't wearing that kind of outfit when I saw her. I'm not surprised, Principal Celestia sighed as she sat back. Sunset Shimmer is one of my problem students. Earlier this morning I caught her running across the grounds, but she wasn't holding anything warped and bent. In fact, except for the jewel on top being broken, the crown she had looked exactly like it did before she must have stolen it from my sister's office. She shook her head. Why Sunset felt the need to steal the fall formal crown when she could have won it fair and square is beyond me. One? Vidal blinked. And what's a fall formal? The fall formal is our annual fall dance, Principal Celestia explained. It's also the first of 3 that we hold at Canterlot High each year, along with the spring fling and, for students who are about to graduate, the senior prom. Standing up and crossing her arms behind her back, she walked over to look at the portraits. I still don't understand the one part, Vixley commented. Could you explain that? Certainly. Principal Celestia turned to face them. Canterlot High has a long-running tradition of electing a princess for every fall formal and spring fling. 1 or more students will sign up to run, and then their classmates vote for whomever they choose to support. The winner of the election receives a special crown for their efforts. Her eyes moved back to the portraits, and she began to pace. A year and a half ago, Sunset Shimmer moved to Canterlot in the middle of the school year. At first, she seemed the perfect student, talented, driven, and soon very popular. She joined the school newspaper and quickly worked her way to the top. Then she put her name in for Princess of the Spring Fling, and won in a landslide. But after that, I began to see what kind of person she really was. What do you mean? Knight asked. Principal Celestia sighed. By all rights, I shouldn't be telling you this, but I've long learned that sometimes I need to go with my gut instincts, and they tell me that the 6 of you are good people who can do something about this. We're listening, Paige said. There was an odd look in her eye now. Very well. Principal Celestia began to pace again. The first signs I had of trouble were when 5 of my students, who had become quite close in the first half of their freshman year, all of a sudden stopped talking to one another around the time of Sunset's first spring fling. I was worried, and found out Sunset had interviewed each of them for the paper a few weeks after she arrived. Not long after that, a series of events happened that caused them to break apart. Once I figured that out, I began to watch her interactions with the other students more closely. I saw her making seemingly friendly comments to others, but when I ran her words over in my head, I realized they were carefully phrased to create confusion and self-doubt in the listener. Rex nodded. A typical strategy among the cruelest of beings, though one that requires a brilliant mind to successfully pull it off. He sighed. Unfortunately, I too have encountered such methods in my time. Principal Celestia nodded. It was all too effective, I'm afraid. Gradually, she managed to break as many ties between the other students as possible, using such methods. Still, she won a second crown at last year's fall formal. Since then, there have been other, more blatant acts of cruelty against some of the students, but I could never pin those on her. In the end, without physical proof, there was nothing I could do, other than advise those students who had been affected to see the guidance counselors. That's horrible, Paige breathed. And nobody can stand up to her? Principal Celestia nodded. The damage has been done, I'm afraid. The school is divided by her actions. A few have tried to make it better, but their efforts fail when something horrible happens to them. Poor Miss Bell tried to run for princess of last year's spring fling, but wound up publicly humiliated after someone anonymously posted a video of her. Well, she cleared her throat. Suffice it to say, it was enough to make her drop out, and Sunset Shimmer won the crown again. Knight clenched his fists and scowled, his new scar making him look a bit more scary than usual. That is despicable, he said. I quite agree, Principal Celestia told him, and after that event, everyone has been too afraid to try to run this fall, even the older students. If I could get proof that she was responsible, I could have her banned from ever running again. But we haven't been able to confirm anything, despite her poor reputation. You can't confirm, Vittle's jaw dropped, but you just said she stole the crown from your sister's office. You caught her with it in her hands. How is that not proof? Because we also found a second crown in the office after I brought back the one I caught her with. Principal Celestia stopped for a moment and fixed her with a firm gaze. My sister and I are sure Sunset Shimmer was up to some tomfoolery with them, and we're trying to get to the bottom of this. But until we do, we can't take any action against her. As a precaution, of course, both crowns are going to stay locked up until the dance the night after tomorrow. Looking at Vittle, Principal Celestia's expression changed. If we can confirm the one she had today was taken from you, of course we'll gladly give it back. She returned to her desk. In the meantime, why don't you all have a look around our school and see what you think? CHS could always use some new teacher's assistants, if you're interested in jobs here. You certainly look mature and old enough for it. There was a faint but mysterious smile on her face. Yeah, I think we'll do that, at least until we get things sorted out here, Vittle managed. And I think Paige here wants to see your school's library. Top floor, directly across from the school's entrance. My sister should actually be in there right now, so you can give her this for me, and she'll help you get your paperwork settled. Jotting a quick note down, she passed it to Paige, who accepted it. Enjoy yourselves, she smiled again, then turned back to her own paperwork. The six exchanged glances, then stepped outside. Now what do we do? Windbreaker finally asked. We look around, Paige said. We find out where Sunset Shimmer is now, and we get some answers. Like who she really is, why she stole the element, and how she knew to steal it. The others nodded. With Paige in the lead, they were soon on their way to the library. As they walked down the hall, each looking around, Vixley's eyes suddenly passed over a tall, box-like thing against one wall. Wonder what that thing is, she mused. Then she got a better look. Ooh, food! She then turned to the others. I don't know about you, but I could use a snack. Then she studied the machine and frowned. How do you get them out, though? She pressed a button. Nope, that didn't do it. Then she pressed another. Not that one either. Ahem! Turning around, the group saw a girl with blue skin, two-toned gray hair, and a blue jacket over a purple shirt and skirt of the same color, with a star-tipped wand on it. She also wore tall boots of the same color as her coat. If you don't mind moving out of the way, she declared, holding up a coin, the great and powerful Trixie needs some peanut butter crackers. Stepping aside, Vixley watched as she slid the coin into a slot on the machine, then pressed a button, causing a small package to fall to the bottom of the machine. Taking it out, the odd girl flounced off, contentedly humming. Well, that happened, Vidal managed. And I don't know about you, but I got a good look at that coin she had. Other than the shape, it didn't look a thing like any of our money. She looked pensive, which means we're going to have a problem around here. So we may need to take those jobs. Aw, Vixley looked at the machine in dismay. No snacks here? Not from that thing, at least, Vidal told her. Until we can find more information. And maybe some of the local cash. So I'm back to work. Yay, Windbreaker grumbled. At least this time it's for a good cause, and not just because of some messed up laws, Paige said, as she put a comforting hand on his shoulder. There is that, Wind sighed, as they walked up the stairs, all of them getting more used to having these weird legs. Part 2. Rex. Finally reaching the library after climbing all the stairs, Paige's eyes widened in delight. This place is amazing, she whispered. Rex noticed that Knight was smiling at her reaction. It certainly is, he agreed. But where is... Just then there was a loud noise in one corner of the room, and all eyes turned towards it. Moments later, 3 skulking boys came out behind one of the shelves, and none of them were very happy by the looks of things. You 3, a female voice said, are in so much trouble. The woman who followed them out was a little shorter than Principal Celestia, and had the same long, flowing hair, albeit in shades of blue instead of the other woman's green and pink. She was dressed a little more casually, wearing a short-sleeved top, dark pants, and heeled shoes, and the expression on her face told them she was not happy. You'll be having detention with Mr. Doodle for the next 2 weeks. Understand? Yes, Miss Luna, the trio chorused. As they made their way out of the library, Rex watched them go. Something wrong? Vidal asked him quietly. Rex frowned. There is just something familiar about those 3, he muttered to himself. Excuse me. Rex looked up to see the woman standing in front of them. Can I help you? Normally, I'd be the one to ask that, the woman replied dryly. I don't remember seeing you 6 around before, and believe me, I know all of our students. Paige stepped forward. We're not exactly students, ma'am, she said. Are you Vice Principal Luna? I am, Luna replied. And you are? Paige Turner. Your sister asked us to give you this. She held out the note. Taking it, Luna read it quickly, and her eyes widened before she smiled at them. Well, this is a pleasant surprise. For us too, Paige replied. I wasn't expecting your sister to make us the offer, but... well, she did, and we accepted. And I'm glad you did, Luna said. Follow me. Leading them over to a round table with some odd devices on it, she sat down and began to get to work. Rex, studying the devices, noticed that one of them appeared to be covered in buttons, each marked with a letter of some sort of alphabet or other symbol. The other looked like a framed piece of glass, but as Luna tapped some of the buttons, odd-looking images appeared on the glass. Finally, she hit another button, and Rex heard a whirring noise. Turning around, he saw another odd device, appearing to be a large gray rectangle about the same height as the table, with some trays sticking out of its sides and spitting out pieces of paper. Luna typed another sequence into the machine, and the glass went blank before she got up to collect the papers. "Here," she said, handing them out. "You'll need to fill these out, and then I'll need to file them before you can start work, but that shouldn't take too long. Just bring them to me in my office when you're done, and I'll get you your assignments." She paused. "You do know where my office is, don't you?" "We know where the principal's office is," Rex said, "and I believe one of your students said that your office was the same way." Luna nodded. "My office is just a few doors down from Celestia's. I'll see you when you're done with these. If you have any questions, Miss Cheerilee will answer them." She pointed to another woman in a green, flower-patterned dress who had been shelving books. Nodding, the six went to work. Nearly half an hour later, all six had filled out their paperwork, and were looking over the tasks they'd been assigned. "So, what have you guys been assigned?" Vidal asked. "I'll be assisting Miss Safari in Spanish class." "In what now?" Vixley asked. Vidal shrugged. "Apparently, that's what they call Berenicio in this world." "Should be right up your alley then," Vixley said with a grin. "Me, I'm doing shop class. They're doing a lot of woodworking this semester." She grinned even wider. "Time to do my family proud." Paige smiled. "Well, I'm in the library. Miss Cheerilee was so glad to have someone filling in for her when she has to teach her regular classes." "That is no surprise," Nightblade commented. "I, on the other hand," he studied his sheet, "will be in gym." "Well, I'm helping out the drama department," Windbreaker said. "Apparently they've started casting for some big play called The Heart That Stays True." He made a face. Sounds like a romance. "Anyway, they need me to help with some of the props and sets." He shrugged. "Should be fun. I've actually done that kind of thing before, so I have the experience." "Quite," Rex said. "And from this, Professor Ney has asked me for help in his science classes." "Now that's right up your alley," Vixley said. "So, guess we're off." Paige nodded. "We'll meet again after classes end." "Sounds like a plan," Vidal said. "Until then." And with that, they set out. Author's note. Special thanks to Anon E. Mouse Jr. for his work on this chapter. Namely, all of it. Which is why I transposed the normal order for Anon E. Mouse and Evil Humor in the opening credits, by the way. The story as a whole is still primarily written by Evil Humor, and if I were doing this more officially, instead of sillily, I would probably have kept the order the same, but felt like mixing it around a little, and this chapter straight up said it was mainly done by Anon E. Mouse. So I figured, why not? Maybe this makes up for the fact that for the first dozen chapters I didn't even include him in the credits. I don't think I included me in the credits either. Like I said, this isn't exactly serious. This is a casual production, and it shows. I'm doing my best for parts of it, like the reading part. I'm honestly trying my best. Some of the things surrounding it, like the artwork, well, you've probably all noticed that's a little lackluster. The credits, I only introduced after the author specifically asked me to start adding the co-author to be credited with this. And I'm gonna stop talking before I mess something up. Not stop talking entirely, just move on to a new topic. Yes. So, let's see. First of all, the sharpness is not required for gyms. You would need very hard teeth for crushing. You're not going to be slicing gyms. I noticed that when they first mentioned Rex's teeth. A rock eater, and gyms are a type of rock, would likely not have prominent, sharp, like incisors and canines, but they would need good, strong molars. That's what you would need for rocks. Let's see. I noticed that they mentioned, or Rex mentioned in his mind, symbols on the keyboard, and he said it as though he didn't recognize them, so he couldn't read it. But then they do their paperwork successfully, so can they or can they not read English? I think they can, and that was just an awkwardly worded portion. I wonder at everyone who was watching them and then Paige walked through the mirror. How many people have now seen her walk in the mirror? So, yes, there's that little bit. Let's see, was there anything else? The timeline, yes! I find it very strange that so little time has passed on this side of the 1,000 years. When, time definitely seems to be passing on the other side, in canon. So did something happen to change how the time works between the two of them? Or is this just the author's interpretation, which doesn't seem to line up with the show in my own opinion? I don't know. We'll see. Either because we'll read something that proves it one way or the other, or because the author will tell me, or because we get to the end and nothing came of it and we can just keep on. I guess that is one ending where we wouldn't see. Okay. Let's see. Clearly the three boys that Rex was familiar with, they are probably the Diamond Dogs. Although not necessarily any Diamond Dogs he has seen before, since those guys would have been dead 1,000 years, unless Diamond Dogs live a lot longer than I think they do. And by that I mean not the Canterlot version of anyone he's seen before. They're definitely not anyone he's seen before. No. Alrighty. I think that's all I had for this chapter. Alrighty. Thank you for listening. I hope you had a pleasant time. Goodbye, everyone.